Evening. We're going to be learning from an amazing lady who mastered Claude. The mom who mastered Claude. Let me share. Okay, the mom who mastered Claude. Let me take it to the beginning. Okay.
Line, it impacts that your family, your sisters, your brother, your kids. That's the importance of ownership, because I can't pass down somebody else's empire. If I'm going to, and I love corporate, right? Because they were my top investors for a very long time. They just didn't know. But I'm pro corporate, but I'm also pro owning something that I can pass down, and not just pass down for somebody else, but also pass down to myself. So when AI came about and I started leveraging it and using it, I started realizing that I was born in a generation in a time such as this, and I needed other people to experience that as well. So that became super important to me. I have a son, he's 12 years old. Every day I wake up, I'm always thinking, what can I do to not just impact myself, but to impact his life, give him the things that I wasn't able to experience. But it even goes back into my bloodline. I come from a family full of entrepreneurs. Like when
Okay.
I think about my home, I always have to go back to my foundation. Waking up in my household, I came from a 2-bedroom apartment with about 10 to sometimes 13 of us living in a 2-bedroom. But every day the message was always the same, especially from my father. He always said that I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to work for myself. And mind you, this was a long time ago. So back then, our mindset didn't really understand that way of thinking. But now that I'm older, I completely understand. I understood it, because if you continue to work for somebody else, you actually don't own anything. They could replace you. They own the infrastructure. They own the systems. They own the client list. So that's why it's so easy for them to replace you with somebody else. And I caught wind of that really early. So that's the importance to ownership for me. It's owning something
Okay.
that has my name on it. It's owning the table. It's owning the building. It's owning the bricks that build the building, right? That's how important it is to me.
One thing I think that's so interesting about your background, because you mentioned these like entrepreneurial influences that you had at an extremely early age, especially from your dad. But you've worked in sales in corporate for like 20 years. You've been involved in AI for over 8 years. And so one of the things that's interesting that you said, once you see the power of ownership, you can't unsee it. And so I'm curious for you to just share it with people, that first experience, like that first powerful, almost like this light bulb moment where you experience the power of ownership. Like, take us back there.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing I'll talk about is when I was 9 years old, I started my first company called Razzle Dazzle. And I talk about this all the time. And at that time, a lot of the young girls loved these beads. And I remember walking into the stores and seeing the young girls trying to try on these beads, which is these bracelets, and they couldn't afford it. So I remember putting together the little money that I had and buying the beads from a warehouse and taking those beads to my 2-bedroom condo and renting out the party room downstairs and inviting these young girls over to buy the beads at a fraction of the cost. And I sold them for 25 cents. Back then, I don't want to expose my age, but back then, that was like being able to see the exchange of money from their hands to my hands, and then going upstairs and counting the money. That was ownership right there. And I sat back, and at the age of 9 years old, I'm like, my gosh, all I have to do is just sell. And that's where I got introduced to sales. And that's the first experience that I had to ownership. After that, I became very intentional with what I did. And I remember, you know, leaving college and having that burning desire, and then experiencing working for different companies. And there was an opportunity that was presented to me to enter the insurance field. And when I entered it, I had two options. I could work for somebody else or I can build my own book of business. And mind you, building your own book of business at that time, especially as a woman, but also as a woman of color, was very difficult. So instead of me going to work for customer service or working for a company, I decided to actually build myself into an insurance broker. That's what they called them. And I built my book of business. And that's when I started experiencing ownership. Instead of me getting capped at a salary, I had unlimited amount of control over my income based off of the input that I put in, dictated the output. So like I said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So my first commission check, I was about 19 or 20 years old. And most individuals at that time were working for McDonald's or some sort of fast food chain. But I was building my own solid book of business, meaning ownership. My first commission check was $11,000. And I got that within 30 days. You talk about feeling. I remember sitting there and conversing with my friends, and they're talking about hundreds of dollars, right? Getting $500, but I got $11,000. And I sat there and I said, my gosh, this is what ownership looks like, where you have control over the output based off of your input. And if you actually do a contrast to that, when you work for a company, it doesn't matter how much you put in, they're paying you for a seat.
You're capped. Yeah.
You're 100% capped. So the math started mathing. And I was like, wow, I never actually want to put myself in a position where my salary is capped. But I was like, no, I got to make this work. So I got obsessed with sales because all I had to do was communicate. I doubled down on it. So when we talk about ownership, like I said, when you see it, you can't unsee it. Because when I got my first check, I was like, Mike, I didn't even cash it. I was just in disbelief. I was like, wow, now I can give money to my mom. Now I can buy a new car, which I literally did. I took my funds and I bought myself a new car, and I started like really doubling down on learning this skill, but not just learning it, owning the skill, owning that mindset to say, okay, this is what I'm good at, right? I actually ignored my weaknesses. I said, no, I want to focus on my strengths. So I doubled down on what I was good at, and the rest became history. Month over month, I became top producer everywhere I went. And I became obsessed with not just the money, it was obsessed with the impact. Because in my mind, I'm like, people aren't really buying the product, they're buying me.
Yeah. You know what, one of the things you talk about, and we even spoke about this before, is you had this like burning desire to be successful. And I think for a lot of people, especially right now, especially people that like they're the breadwinner in their family, like they feel the pressure of that and the responsibility, whether it's for their son, their daughter, their elderly parents, like they feel that responsibility. And then I think about what you mentioned with having control over your income. And we're at a time right now where people feel the opposite of that.
Right.
They feel like they're like this moving piece. And especially when we talk about AI, it's like this wave is coming and I'm going to either be replaced or out of the job or not as valuable as a result. And so there was something that you said when we spoke before this that I wanted you to elaborate on, which is you said, what's important is seeing that there's $1 trillion of this AI pie and making sure that you don't miss out on that wave in the same way that people missed out on the internet wave. Can you just elaborate on that piece and what you're seeing from your vantage point, given the people and the clients that you work with, this $1 trillion of this AI pie?
Okay, so my AI agent, Johnny, recently sent me this beautiful pre-episode outline that I send to guests before we record with them. And he did this without me doing any prompting or even asking him to do it. And when I think about that, that is insane to me. And so a quick behind the scenes on the show. Before we record an episode, we do a pre-call with each guest. And then after that pre-call, I'll draft up an episode outline of exactly how I want to structure the episode, and we'll send that to the guest. And usually it takes me anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to come up with this outline. And I do all of it in a plain text document. And so I came into the HyperAgent platform here to build an agent that could do this for me, because I wanted to get my time back and I wanted to create beautiful looking outlines that would impress our guests. And so I clicked create with chat here. I gave it some basic information on what I wanted to build, and it just created the whole agent for me. HyperAgent made it really easy. And then after the pre-call that we did, I got this Slack message from my agent, Johnny, with a link to a finished outline literally 10 minutes after the pre-call. I didn't have to prompt it. I didn't even ask it to do this. It just knows what to do after every pre-call, which is mind-blowing to me. And Johnny's just my first agent that I've created with HyperAgents. And so if you want to finally create your first AI agent and have it be easy and simple, go to that link in the description to get $500 of free credits with HyperAgent to do exactly that. Okay, so if you're watching this episode, I know you're probably the kind of person who's always looking for the new AI tool that will make your life easier. And so I wanted to show you guys this partnership proposal that I created with Gamma, the sponsor of today's episode, that made my life a lot easier. And so to give the context, I've always wanted to create a presentation like this that we could send to potential sponsors, but I'd never gotten around to it because I'm not a designer. And then number two, I didn't want to spend a ton of money on a designer. And third, even if I was half good at design, it would have taken me at least a couple of days to create a presentation to this level. But with Gamma, I just had to come in here. I clicked on create from template, and Gamma actually has a partnership proposal template built right in here. And then I just come in and I give it context on exactly what the proposal should do. And then I hit generate. And in literally under 20 minutes, I have this beautiful looking presentation. And honestly, the first output didn't look exactly the way that I wanted it to. And so I just open up Gamma's agent right here and I tell it exactly what I don't like and what I wanted to change. And it just did it for me. And so if you're someone that's listening and you want to create presentations like this for yourself, just go to the link in the description to try Gamma today. Thank you to Gamma for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the show.
Well, there's $1 trillion on the table. And what's happening right now is AI is being used to cause panic. But AI is actually exposing that the things that we thought were safe is actually unsafe. So it's not an AI problem. It's the fact that we're now being exposed to the truth, that actually working for an organization or a company, it was actually never safe at all. So yes, there is $1 trillion on the table, and the people that are on the sidelines need to get into the game, because once they figure out, okay, I can leverage AI to multiply what I'm doing, to build and scale a business. Like when I was starting out and building businesses, because I started and stopped many businesses, but you would have to have at least 10 to 30, sometimes $50,000 to start a business. And now really all you need is a laptop and $500. So that's why I say there's $1 trillion on the table. And the issue that I'm seeing is a lot of people are going through life on autopilot. They're doing the same thing, right? Expecting different results, not realizing that the economy has actually changed, that you don't need to actually go and work 9 to 5. And I'm not putting down 9 to 5, but this is what my message is ownership, is that you don't have to run to a company. You can actually sacrifice your time and pour your energy into building something that you can own. And that's why I say there's $1 trillion on the table, because right now you can leverage AI to solve so much problems right now, where you can build those problems into a business and actually taking those problems and those solutions that you build and actually approaching those companies that need help. So yes, there's $1 trillion on the table, and now is not a time to panic. I have more of a mindset of abundance, right? And that's very important to me, is that when I'm looking at the AI table, I'm not looking at it from a panic position, because I've been there. But once you get over the hump of fear and you start strategizing and you have a strategy, things will start playing out. And I literally went from $0 to, now close to touching $1 million just by leveraging AI, because we could rewire and become a breadwinner right now. You could make 4, 5, 6 figures a month leveraging AI. There was a man that was just announced as a trillionaire, and he has infrastructure in AI. So people are showing you where the money is flowing. So I'm going to walk towards where the money is flowing, which is AI. And I want everybody to come with me, because there is enough, like $1 trillion. Like, you can think about it. If everybody was to double down and learn AI, build with AI, they can get a piece of that pie, not just for themselves, but they can actually take a piece of that pie, retire their mom, retire their dad, give something back to their sisters and brothers, and also then show them how they can make their own ownership from it too, right? So it's like impacting your whole family. So that's so important to me.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into the steps, and it was something that you and I spoke about even before we started recording. Of like, we want this conversation to be so practical on how people can get started,
Absolutely.
and the steps to actually building a business and using AI in your business. Before we do, though, I want to go back to the beginning of your story, specifically with AI, because speaking today, you run a consulting business, you help people build their companies using AI. You're doing $200,000 a month. But in the beginning, and this is what you said, I became very obsessed with this technology about 8 years ago. I then spent about 10,000 hours plus learning about it. And so I think one of the things that's interesting to me, because a lot of people are getting into this space right now because it's trendy.
Right.
But you've been doing this for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you've put in the 10,000 hours. It's always like we hear that, right? The 10,000 hours is mastery. And so if you take us back to that origin, what is the trigger point, or even like the light bulb moment that makes you, in your words, I became very obsessed about this technology? Like, what prompted that?
What prompted it? Wow. I got laid off from my job. That's what prompted it. And it was I was actually going through a major transition in my personal life as well. So it was like a tipping point where it almost like I didn't have any choice. But I just remember working for a company and supporting them, pouring in like unlimited hours, and then boom, getting an HR. I don't know if anybody has experienced getting laid off, but you get this like HR calendar invite and you're just like, what is this about? And from my perspective, it's a team meeting. So I actually showed up thinking it was a team meeting, not realizing it was just me and a couple of individuals in the room in HR. And they had told me that they were laying off, they were doing layoffs in tiers, and we were the first. And I was actually in C-suite. So I was getting paid like 6 figures. It was a fantastic run. I was actually working for a firm that was focused on technology as well. But yeah, I showed up to a meeting one day and there was about 7 of us, and they told us that we were getting let go. Mind you, I was like the top performer of the whole, like, to be honest, of the whole company. I impacted it. In like, let's talk about profits and revenue. Like, when I would get those Excel sheets compared to what I was getting paid, the math was like 10 times more. Like, they were getting paid 2 million a month and I was getting paid, 6 figures a year. So when I started looking at the math, I'm like, the impact that I had towards those numbers, it just didn't make sense to me. And I think that allowed me to get really emotional, because I was like, you give your all to a company, and just for them to turn around and lay you off in the first batch, that was the tipping point that sparked something with me. Because when I left the company and I would check in with my old colleagues that were remaining, I actually found out that they were replacing people to technology. So everything that I was doing was actually becoming, they were monitoring it so they can push it to technology. So I didn't realize that I was actually pushing myself out of the company by giving them as much information as possible. And this was before AI, to be honest. So that was the tipping point that took place. And I was just at a point where, many people would have bet on stocks. Many people would have bet on going back into finding another job. But there was something inside of me that reignited, even from when I was a little girl, fast forward to now, to that tipping point, was that burning desire to be successful. And at that point, I had given about 17 years of my life to other people's empires and dreams. And I remember sitting there just saying, what am I going to do? Even though I got a severance, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I became so engulfed with the title, walking around saying that I was a VP, and you know what I mean? And this is like the story of everybody that, you try to rise to C-suite, and I did that. And then being able to go from that to feeling nothing because the title was ripped from me, it was devastating. But I have this rule that I live by. We do 60 seconds to vent and cry, but we got to figure out a solution. So I literally allowed myself to have that moment, but then I wiped my tears away and I said, I got to figure this out. And that part of that emotion comes from my mother. She's a very resilient woman. So it's almost like it didn't matter when people told her no, she always found a way. So that side kind of like came into me. I was like, I got to find a way. I literally took my severance pay and invested it into learning coding. I took my severance pay and I invested it into certifications. I actually went on a certification run. I have over 25 certifications. I went back to back learning. And then in one of those certifications, AI popped up. And that's when I was like, wait, what is this? Because remember, I don't have a tech background. I have a sales background. And I was doing something so different, right? I was like, what is this? And then literally a couple of months from that, I was then exposed to ChatGPT and it started to all click. And I took my severance, pushed it into certifications, but then I also pushed it into building my business. So instead of me just staying where I was, that would have been tragedy. I actually took that pain and I said, I'm going to make noise and I'm going to make my success make the noise. So it was almost like, because people love to be revengeful, but for me, my revenge is success. So every day that I woke up in that moment, I kept thinking, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that I could win. Right. So that was my mindset. And mind you, as I talk through it, it seems like, okay, well, she just pushed through. Every day was a pressure. I felt like I was in a pressure cooker because you're going from a mindset of being a corporate individual, getting paid every 2 weeks. Your paycheck is always on time, never missed, to going from having to go find who's going to pay you.
You never know when.
You never know when.
Yeah.
You can go months without getting paid and have like a big, huge month. So it was so much rewiring that I had to do. And mind you, I was also going through a huge personal transformation as well, right? I was leaving a very long relationship. And this will resonate with people like that's going through transitions in their life. It's like people will always say, well, life is happening. I'm just going to just let it happen. No, I decided to leverage every pain, every obstacle as an opportunity for me to be able to win. And I became a shark. Just as much as I was a shark for other companies, I became a shark, meaning that every day I woke up, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to learn as much as possible. But I came up with a strategy that I already knew how to run a successful business because I had 17 years backed of success track record of running other people's empire, right? I was the person that ran a lot of these companies, came up with strategies, came up with blueprints, came up with learning initiatives. I took all of that and I just built it into my business. We went like month 1, nothing. Month 2, nothing. Month 3, nothing. And I remember inviting my mom over, just telling her like, I'm done. Like I'm going to go back and work for another company. There was actually this big contract that I was waiting for. And I remember my mom was in the living room and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. If I don't get this contract, I'm going to have to figure something out. And lo and behold, it was around 12 a.m. I got a notification of $14,000 getting transferred into my account. The contract came through and my mom was still there on the couch. Mind you, she thought it was $7,000, but for the record, it was a $14,000 contract. But I remember turning to my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is ownership. This is what it feels like. Being able to, because I went 3 months of just, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, $14,000. And I remember thinking, I already know what it takes to have a successful business because I've already done it for others. So I started to just like execute, create systems, frameworks, doubling down on AI, learning it as much as possible, and being able to then apply everything into my business to the point where every day now, it still feels like a pressure cooker. That feeling, I just got used to it. But it's now understanding my worth was never tied to a title. It was always tied to me. I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one that's going to impact my own paycheck. I will never go back to have somebody control my input to output.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know what? There's Edwina, there's a power in your story. You know, there's a power in your story because I think about that. We put so much of our identity and almost like our sense of worth to an extent in our job. Like I even think about, you know, living in New York, like conversations that you'll have, meeting someone, and in the first few questions is, what do you do? You know, it's like it really kind of encapsulates who we are to a certain extent. And so when you go from that and then so abruptly to like you don't have that to lean on, like there's nothing that you can't tell people, oh, I'm a VP at this or I work here. There's nothing. And for a lot of people, and I've seen it firsthand, it's like that can destroy their confidence.
Yes.
Like people never recover from that moment. And so I think to myself, even as I just listened to your story of that person sitting at home or that person that's going through that experience right now where it's like, this happened, I've been laid off, but not just me, like my team has been laid off. Like there's not really, it almost feels like there's not a value to my skill set at this point. To that human being that is in that experience right now, given what you've achieved and how you turned it around and getting to that first point where you close a $14,000 contract and seeing the value of AI, what would be your advice to that person? What would you have wanted to hear in that moment when you're stepping out of that meeting room and it's like, I went in as a VP or I went in as a manager and now there's nothing there? What would you say to that human being?
You were made for a time such as this. A lot of time people don't realize that they go through seasons in life. And when you understand the season that you're in, you will go through these seasons and you will go through a season of disruption. I always think about how a plant even comes to fruition, right? It's the soil. The soil has to go through disruption, where you're taking a seed and you're planting the soil and you're taking the seed and planting it into the soil. I talk in analogies because that's the only way I can connect things, but that's how I felt like I was going through a season of disruption, not realizing that it's necessary so you can see your worth. A lot of the times, like you said, we tie our worth to these titles, and when that title is gone, you feel like you're nothing. Because you're right, when you go into your friend group and your circle and people ask, well, what do you do? What do you do, right? So if I can give any advice, like I said, it's understanding that seasons take place in your life for a reason. and you were meant for a time such as this, you will go through a whole 180 of relearning who you are. This is not a step down. This is actually a step up, because it allows you to see that you being tied to the job title was actually limiting your success. It's a limitation, because once the title left me, I felt like I had nothing. But then, like I said, the next day, I'm like, no, I have everything. I actually co-created and built these billion-dollar companies. I was the one saying yes and no, and CEOs would leverage my ability to say, should we move? Should we not go? So I was like, no, I'm everything. So if I can give somebody advice, is understanding their seasons, but understanding that you were built for this, that this is happening for a reason. You've had a burning desire to build something that you could say, this is mine. And this is your time. We have leverage, we have AI. Like I've never seen it in my whole entire history of being on this earth. A tool, a system, an AI agent that we can leverage to be able to multiply what we couldn't do before. You can build, and I'm like a walking witnesses, you can build a one-person team into $1 million entity right now. So it's understanding that you're the one.
Yeah. I actually think it's such a great reframe of like there was a reason why the company that you worked at was paying you a salary. Like you actually have value. Like there's a reason why they paid you. It's probably because you're creating more value for that company than what they're paying you. You know what, Edwina, here's where I want to go, because I just want to make it so real for people. And so I know that there's, like I said, there's thousands of people that reach out to you. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs and clients, helping them infuse AI into their businesses. Can you speak to and just share some examples of people, whether it's like they've reached out to you or clients that you've worked with, and just share first of all how they're using AI in like their business, or even how they've gone from that point of like they were a professional working in the corporate world to now they're actually running a business, whether it's like a service-based business or a product. Can you just share some of those examples and how they're using AI?
Absolutely. So right now, out of my corner office, meaning my business, we've been able to birth out individuals that can make 5 to 6 figures a month. How that is taking place is it's actually my framework that I use. It's and this framework that I'm about to talk about is exactly what I went through when I got laid off. The very first thing is you're going to extract your genius. You're going to figure out what is that skill that the company was actually paying you to do, not the title. Forget about the title. I'm talking about the actual skill, right? So when we have people coming into, because we had hundreds and thousands of DMs and people are like, I have a burning desire to own something. The very first thing that I do with them is I'm analyzing, well, what are you good at? And a lot of people be like, well, I don't know. Like, my company hires me. Well, we always start there, because the company is obviously, like you said, paying you a salary for you to have a seat there because they see value in what you're doing. They are renting your skill, meaning that they're not actually paying you to what they should be paying you. So the very first step is we extract that skill. So what is the company paying you to actually do that's supporting their business and allowing them to see revenue and profits? I don't just deal with any skill sets. I deal with the skill sets where we focus on revenue and profit. Those are just because of my sales background, it has to make us money. So we extract those skill sets and we start there. And that's literally week 1 of what we're doing with all of the students and individuals within their business. We analyze what they're actually good at, and we take that and we create a ICP, which is a customer who would value off of that skills set that you have. So we turn that into figuring out which clients would actually need that, right? So if you take somebody like an individual that's been working with corporate, and let's say they come up with SOPs or they come up with workflows, we would take that skill set and now create it into, okay, which individuals would actually value from that. It can be a dentist office that's has no workflows at all, no processes, no systems. It can be a doctor's office, and we allow them to take it, create that ICP, which is that client, and then from there, very quickly, they create an offer. But I do things very different. So we don't just go and start building a business around the offer. I actually do the opposite. I actually tell them to go and start talking to at least 10 to 30 people about the offer that they're thinking about going to the market with. So we test demand. A lot of people make that mistake. They build something that they think these clients will need, and then you go to the market and it's like ghost town. I get them to actually go to and this all happens within a period of weeks. So you can literally go from week 1 to week 4, closing a sale because of this strategy right here. So you go to the same ICP, those clients, you figure out, you have those conversations with them. You say to them, okay, what are you actually dealing with? What's the actual issues? And then you take all their feedback and you put that into the offer. The beauty of it is that we have AI now. So AI actually supports from the very beginning, which I can show your audience step by step. It supports by finding that skill set, because sometimes it's very hard. If you're just getting laid off, it is so hard for you to even think clearly. But the beauty is that we have AI, and you can leverage AI to be able to support you going from finding that skill set for you to figuring out who's your customer, to then going to the marketplace and supporting you with the messaging to the actual client, taking that feedback, putting it into AI. So it's supporting you, even though you're emotional, it's supporting you along the way. And then you're taking those 10 to 30 conversations and you're actually going back to those same individuals and saying that, well, this is something that I've created just for you. And a lot of the times the individuals that do that exact framework is able to close 30% of those clients. So that's like 3 out of 10. Because, and it does something indirectly too, because a lot of individuals are not confident with sales and going out there and having these conversations. So I push these individuals to go out and have these conversations, because your first 10K is not going to come from content going viral online. It's going to come from you actually going and having these conversations with the people in your phone book, with the people that you used to work with the CEOs that used to trust your judgment. It's not going online and going in front of, because some people will be like, no, go and do content. I'm actually the opposite. The way that I hit my first 100K was by just going back to the companies that laid me off, going back to my neighborhood, going on LinkedIn, sending out messages, getting into my group chat, letting people know what I'm doing. There's a quote that I came across, Malcolm X. He said, whenever you do things, make some noise. And I remember holding on to that. So, and that's things that I push throughout all of my students as well, right? Everybody that comes in my DMs, make some noise. You got laid off, make some noise. Let people know what you're doing, right? Don't stay in that emotional despair. Look at it as a positive. Turn your skill sets into money. So hopefully those steps made sense. Like, we extract the genius, right? We get the skill set. We focus on what is the customer, who is the customer that we're going to be attracting. We create a temporary offer, but we are leveraging that offer to go have more conversations. So we're testing the market. We're getting people excited. We're actually dropping little nuggets, letting people indirectly know we're coming up with something. We're taking their feedback, and then we're creating a one-page, what I call a one-pager, which is going through the price, the plan, the offer, the delivery, the system, what you're giving them. And then you're then going back to those conversations to let them know that you've been able to create something remarkable that's going to be able to solve a lot of the problems that they're dealing with. 3 out of 10, 3 people will say yes, because you have that rapport. They trust your judgment. You're not going to somebody that doesn't know who you are. You're going to somebody that you've worked with. You're going to somebody that you may have had a relationship with in terms of business. You're going to that real estate broker that helped you find your first house. You're going to people in your network. Like, if you look at your phone, like, you can look at your phone right now, like, how much context do you have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I actually, because this is really good. And I think that there's 2 points that I heard that I want to key in on. The first one is the speed. You know, I think you mentioned that it's fast, like within the process of like weeks, you're actually getting to this point where you have a temporary offer. And it felt like that was intentional, like actually
Because
doing it with a
it's,
level of speed. And then the second part,
you
and
know,
this is almost like
good evening.
counterproductive, even with the way that we've had this
Okay.
conversation, because we've been speaking about AI. And so I think that when you speak about AI, people think machines and your software, and you're like just in your house, just typing away, like talking with
No,
ChatGPT or Claude. But
I've
there's
known
actually this
some
human
of the
layer
parents. I've even sent
to
it
the process, to like that
payment for
three-step
one
process that you
forty
laid
thousand to
out.
the group now. I've
And I
been
love that
feeling how
of
all this thing. I don't know what is
even
coming
the
in from.
visual
Right.
of like in your phone right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first 100K is like really it's just in your
Yes.
phone,
So
which
I
is
don't
all
know.
the
I think.
contacts, like the people that you know from previous jobs or your LinkedIn or your manager or the real estate broker, is like those are the people
I've
that you
raised
should
over
start with.
to
Like the
1
people that
million
know
now, to be
you,
honest.
they trust in your reputation and what you're capable of.
Yes.
So that jumped out to me
Okay.
straight away, like that human piece. I guess at what point in the
Yes.
process does AI come in a
I
major
will, I
way?
will
Because I
send you
think
all the
we're
money
getting
I've
to
raised. I don't know
the
why she's
point
coming
now,
to.
especially with all of like
we
the
raise over
internet hype and content hype, where people believe that AI, and especially like AI agents, they can just do anything for you. They can do everything. They can run the business, they can sell, and you see these videos. In your mind, given the people that you've worked with and the work that you've done in your own business,
They will get everything that
where
they
does
should get,
AI
because we
come in
provide, even they
first in a
cannot get.
major way?
Absolutely.
Thank God,
So I'll
so you
take a step
mentioned
back
Bricks that
first to
it's
talk
not
about
opportunity.
speed.
So
I'm actually a woman of speed. Very quick. Like I said, I'm a shark. So that same mentality goes through every framework that I do. But if you notice that I said I spoke about the frameworks, I didn't mention one AI tool, did I?
You didn't.
A lot of people, especially because you said something, are
yeah,
getting into AI
thank
right
you.
now,
Thank you for that
not
reminder. So that
understanding
was
that
really
this is not
helpful.
an
But
AI
everybody, I
buzzword
will
thing.
send
It's
you
a
all the
business
details.
one.
Let me even send
Business
for the
foundation
payment
still
receipt so that you know.
is like
Thank God,
is still
many of
important.
the
Yeah,
rest.
business
I'll send it to you
principles.
so that you see.
I don't care what anybody says. AI is not magic. You still need to know the first principles. You still need to understand how business operates. And for me personally, and anybody that I work with, they're like, well, what's the AI tool stack? Well, why would we get to an AI tool stack if you don't even know how to make money yet? So we go through getting those skills, like the framework that I said, but you said, where does AI come in? It actually comes in very last towards the end, which is the delivery. AI can actually support with the delivery side of things. So the welcome email, when somebody actually becomes a client, you can create a whole welcome, white glove onboarding experience. You can have AI automate that section. You can support it with, like, I have a lady that does market research for schools. She has the AI help her and support her with market research. The thing that she used to do manually, she now gets AI to support with the delivery. You can get AI to do 80% of the delivery now. But the first few steps is not, AI doesn't come in there. Yes, it does support you with leveraging and guiding you, but it doesn't come in there to automate conversations. And I know right now people are like, yeah, I want to make money while I sleep, or AI can help you do things while you sleep. Like, I mean, but why would you get AI involved if you don't, if you haven't been able to even figure out how to make money? So you have to go through those steps for sure, and then you get AI to handle the delivery side of things, which is creating the workflows, which is supporting your client communication, which is trying to figure out what could it do to where you don't have to be continuously in the weeds. Those are questions that I always continuously ask, is because if we think about the mindset, a worker actually does the work. And we're not workers in my mindset. I don't want anybody to be a worker. I want them to be an operator. And an operator doesn't think about what do I need to do. It's more or less, what do I don't do to allow the system to actually work. So that's my mindset when it comes to where does AI come into play. It is at the very ending, which is the delivery. Because AI is much out, like, it's really good right now, but it will never replace this. Building rapport, having a relationship, those things are still key to being able to actually hit your first 100K, even your first 1 million. It is built off of relationships. So for me, I never move with tools first. When people come into my space, my ecosystem, and they're like, well, what's your tool stack? My tool stack is pretty simple. I just have when I first got started, it was literally a website, a payment link, a calendar link, and that was it. Right?
Overcomplicate it.
We overcomplicate it. They said the average entrepreneur and the average individual right now has 45 subscriptions on AI.
Wow.
Because, like you said, people are coming into this space new and they're providing incorrect information. It's not about the AI tools, it's a tool. If you think about it, I'm from Canada, so Home Depot, and I don't know if anybody's familiar, but Home Depot.
Home Depot here.
Do you? Okay. So you can go into Home Depot and buy all the tools to build a house. And you can get back to the place where you want to build a house and the house still is not built.
Mhm.
That's the same way AI works. You can have all the tools, but still not have $1 million business.
Mm.
It was never about the tools. It was always about the blueprint. It was always about understanding those frameworks. How do you start a business? Business foundations. You still need to know that. And that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic land that's going to automate everything. I mean, what are we automating if you don't even have you don't even know how to get a client, right? So I believe that AI comes in at the very end. It's not something that you bring in at the beginning, because that's what causes confusion. That's what causes you to sit there with 45 tools, not creating a synergy, not creating a system. Like when you think about it, there's 4 parts to a business. And this is something that I learned very young. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. These are the 4 pillars that you will come across: content, sales, delivery, and operations. Every business operates in those 4 pillars. So when you think about AI, AI comes in once you've been able to master your first couple of sales. And that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic land that's going to even your first $1 million. It is built off of relationships. So for me, I never move with tools first. When people come into my space, my ecosystem, and they're like, well, what's your tool stack? My tool stack is pretty simple. I just have when I first got started, it was literally a website, a payment link, a calendar link, and that was it. Right?
Overcomplicate it.
We overcomplicate it. They said the average entrepreneur and the average individual right now has 45 subscriptions on AI.
Wow.
Because, like you said, people are coming into this space new and they're providing incorrect information. It's not about the AI tools, it's a tool. If you think about it, I'm from Canada, so Home Depot, and I don't know if anybody's familiar, but Home Depot.
Home Depot here.
Do you? Okay. So you can go into Home Depot and buy all the tools to build a house. And you can get back to the place where you want to build the house and the house still is not. It's the same way AI works. You can have all the tools, still not have $1 million business. It was never about the tools. It was always about the blueprint. It was always about understanding those frameworks. How do you start a business? Business foundations. You still need to know that. And that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic land that's going to automate everything. I mean, what are we automating if you don't even have you don't even know how to get a client, right? So I believe that AI comes in at the very end. It's not something that you bring in at the beginning, because that's what causes confusion. That's what causes you to sit there with 40, because that's what causes confusion. That's what causes you to sit there with 45 tools, not creating a synergy, not creating a system. Like when you think about it, there's 4 parts to a business. And this is something that I learned very young. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. These are the 4 pillars that you will come across: content, sales, delivery, and operations. Every
Content, sales, delivery, and operations. What do you mean delivery and operations anyway?
business operates in those 4 pillars. So when you think about AI, AI comes in once you've been able to master your first couple of sales, and then you structure AI around those 4 pillars.
I love the focus on the foundation and that kind of 3-step, really simple process that you map out, which is fast. And which is one, like extracting your genius, which is the skill that you're great at or that you're already being paid for if you're working.
And that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic. You said people are coming into this space new and they're providing even your first $1 million. It is built off of relationships. So for me, I never move with tools first. When people come into my space, my ecosystem, and they're like, well, what's your tool stack? My tool stack is pretty simple. I just have when I first got started, it was literally a website, a payment link, a calendar link, and that was it. Right?
Overcomplicate it.
We overcomplicate it. They said the average entrepreneur and the average individual right now has 45 subscriptions on AI.
Wow.
Because like you said, people are coming into this space new and they're providing incorrect information. It's not about the AI tools, it's a tool. If you think about it, I'm from Canada, so Home Depot, and I don't know if anybody's familiar, but Home Depot.
Home Depot here.
Do you? Okay. So you can go into Home Depot and buy all the tools to build a house. And you can get back to the place where you want to build a house and the house still is not built. Mm-hmm. That's the same way AI works. You can have all the tools, but still not have $1 million business. Mm. It was never about the tools. It was always about the blueprint. It was always about understanding those frameworks. How do you start a business? Business foundations. You still need to know that. And that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic land that's going to automate everything. I mean, what are we automating if you don't even have you don't even know how to get a client, right? So I believe that AI comes in at the very end. It's not something that you bring in at the beginning, because that's what causes confusion. That's what causes you to sit there with 45 tools, not creating a synergy, not creating a system. Like when you think about it, there's 4 parts to a business. And this is something that I learned very young. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. These are the 4 pillars that you will come across: content, sales, delivery, and operations. Every business operates in those 4 pillars. So when you think about AI comes in once you've been able to master, and that is still foundational to how a business is done. AI is not some magic land that's going to automate everything. I mean, what are we automating if you don't even have you don't even know how to get a client, right? So I believe that AI comes in at the very end. It's not something that you bring in at the beginning, because that's what causes confusion. That's what causes you to sit there with 45 tools, not creating a synergy, not creating a system. Like when you think about it, there's 4 parts to a business. And this is something that I learned very young. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. These are the 4 pillars that you will come across: content, sales, delivery, and operations. Every business operates in those 4 pillars. So when you think about AI comes in once you've been able to master your first couple of sales, and then you structure AI around those 4 pillars.
Mm-hmm. Which is one, like extracting your genius, which is the skill that or that you're already being paid for if you're working a job. And then 2 is developing that ICP, who's the customer profile. And we do that for this show, viewer avatar in our context. And then 3rd is developing the temporary offer based of that. You know what? One of the areas, because you mentioned how AI can help in delivery, but I also know from speaking with you before this, there's also a certain, I think the AI almost as like a consultant or like a thought partner is valuable. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, I know that you have a prompt that you kind of use with people that kind of helps them kind of come up with what that skill could be. The resume autopsy prompt.
Yes.
Could you share your screen? Could you take people through that?
Absolutely. So the importance of this is a lot of people don't know where to start. And when people don't know where to start, they just go back to what they're comfortable with. So I created this because what it's going to do, it's number one, it's going to allow us to extract that genius that we spoke about, because a lot of people cannot disconnect from their job title. So what this does is it will allow you to take any resume, upload the resume, and then the resume autopsy will actually find the skill that is hiding in that job title. So I'm going to read directly off this prompt. So, and I'll read just a couple of sentences so you can see what it's doing. But it says, you have my resume below, which is the resume that's attached. And we're attaching this into my favorite tool, which is Claude. And I use Cowork on purpose. Okay. It says, don't tell me what I did. Tell me what I'm worth. Number one, find every skill hiding under the job titles, no duties, the skills, the things that made money happen. Number two, rank the top 5 by what companies pay outside consultants for that same work today, and do real market rates. The reason why I add that there is because in these tools, again, it doesn't matter what you use, has access to so much data. So why not have AI, which is Claude, the tool that we're using, go and all that data and come back to us. And it says, pick one skill I could sell as a service in the next 30 days and tell me why that one. And here we go. Tell me exactly who buys it, the type of business, the person who signs, and the pain that makes them pay. Don't be polite, because AI has a thing with being nice.
Agreeable.
Awesome. So we have to actually tell it, do not be polite, be precise, because I don't like fluff. And sometimes the AI tools will bring out all these fluff. So it's like, be precise. I've been undervalued for 20 years. You will not do it again to me. Very powerful.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take that. And what I did was I actually created an example resume to use.
Okay. Awesome.
And really excited about this. So her name is Simone.
Yeah.
Right? Is the same ICP that we're going to be talking about. Simone actually comes from New York metro area. She was a senior program manager. She worked for Fortune 500 company. She managed 14 cross-functional programs with a combined budget of $8 million. Okay. She was able to cut vendor onboarding time by 40% by redesigning the intake process end to end, built the monthly executive reporting package used by 3 VPs to run the division. And then it goes on and it starts listing out all of her experience going back. Because a lot of individuals at this point has about 10, 20, 30, 40 years of like worked and lived experience that they don't realize what they impacted. So the resume is what we use to be able to extract that.
Yeah. So when you're working with people, it sounds like it's almost like the step one, or it's almost step 0 is you're making sure the resume is actually up to date. And it sounds like the resume is this key piece of context that you're then putting into Claude.
Absolutely. Because if you think about the person like Simone, she possibly may have got let go, or she possibly has or is still working for the company, meaning that in these two circumstances, the last time that they updated their resume was probably like years and years ago. So that's the very first thing that we do is we need to make sure that the resume is up to date. And we need to make sure all of the things that they were doing, it's almost very similar to like a normal standard resume. The only difference is we don't have any of that fluffy information. We just zoom into what was the job title that you had, and then what was the task that you did within that company. And it's very important too. It's like, how do you even get to that point where I recommend doing something called a voice dump? And a voice dump is where you're just going through, because to be honest, I don't type anymore. I can tell you the last time I actually sat there and typed, because we think faster than our hands could type. And I actually believe that humans weren't built to type. I believe we were built to speak. And that's how the cognitive energy works. So I actually go back to how I believe humans should dictate things to AI, which is speaking. So you do the voice dump, and I use a tool. This is where an AI tool comes in called Whisper Flow. I have no connection to them, but it's great because all you do is you press a button and you voice dump everything that you've done. And it becomes emotional almost, because you're like, I didn't realize I did all this.
Yeah, it's like a self-discovery through speaking it out.
Absolutely. Because a
Yeah.
lot of people that I come across, the very first thing, 9 out of 10, they always say, well, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I did. Well, yeah, you did. Every time you signed into your company, you actually did task every day that allowed that company to position you as the engine for the company. That's why most CEOs can go and play golf, because they have you being the engine. So now we're extracting those engine tasks that you used to do, and we're bringing it into a resume. So we made one for Simone Carter, that's her name, and we listed out all of the things that she did. But at the end, what I actually listed out was the education, the certifications that she gained along the way, because those are also things that a lot of individuals don't realize will allow to build authority in the marketplace, where we have a lot of people coming out. And I don't push people to be an AI expert. That's not something that I push, neither an AI consultant. I push people to be which is where their genius is, where the last 20, 30 years has been sitting in. If you actually think about the internet, was people walking around saying that they were an internet expert?
No.
No. In the AI economy, the people that win is where they're actually doing this right now. So the audience, where, remember I declared something in the beginning? I said I declared that somebody watching this video today will be able to turn themselves into a millionaire. A millionaire is a fantasy if you don't know what the math is. So the math to a millionaire, and I want people to zoom in on this, because when you're coming out, it could be 500 clients at $2,000. It can be 84 clients at $12,000. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
That's the math to $1 million. And that's what we're going to be building for Simone and for everybody that's watching and building with us right now.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Because I want to show people, and I want to put in Simone's resume with your prompt and put it into Claude. As you're doing that, two things that I actually wanted to follow up with you on. First of all, it's for the purposes of this, and it sounds like in your business as well, you correct me if I'm wrong, you mainly use Claude and Claude Co-work. Why is that over something like ChatGPT or Codex or some of these other tools, or Gemini? Like, why specifically for you do you use Claude?
Absolutely. So I do use Claude Code too. But the reason why I use Claude is I believe mastery of one. This is why you have people that are like, there's two types of people that I come across, is squirrels and foxes. Squirrels, it's like every little thing. Oh, new tool out. Oh, gotta go learn this, right? I have a mindset of being a fox. And that's what I encourage people in my ecosystem to be, is not a squirrel, because there's thousands of AI tools that are being birthed actually on a monthly basis right now.
Yeah.
Because anybody can build an AI tool really quick. So I like to leverage things that I like. So I personally like Claude, and I've leveraged ChatGPT, but the winner in my books is Claude, because you can truly build an operating system around those 4 pillars that I spoke about earlier, which is content, sales, operation, delivery. And I like to just focus on one thing. When I focus on many things, you become a squirrel and you get distracted. And for me, I like to move in urgency, and I like to move, like, once I figure things out, I like to move very quickly. And you can't move quick when you have all these tools that you're trying to balance. ChatGPT here, Claude here. So that's why I use Claude, because it's really easy to leverage. It's very easy to navigate. They're doing updates on a monthly, sometimes daily basis.
Yeah.
But they're all things that actually connect back to making us better at business and better at what we do. Mind you, there was something that took place recently where Fable 5, for those that don't know about it, Fable 5 is cutting edge technology that allows you to build at supersonic speed, where the government actually pulled it from we had it for like a couple of days and it got pulled.
Yeah.
That made me realize that you cannot, and even before I realized this, but it really allowed me to double down that you cannot build your business on one land, meaning one AI tool. So as much as I use Claude as my main focus, I'm still building on ChatGPT. So if they decide, because we don't know, it's called vanishing access. That's what's happening, and that's what will happen, meaning that we may have the tools today and the government may wake up tomorrow and say, absolutely, the public doesn't even need this type of cutting edge technology. That's what
It's
we
dangerous,
just,
yeah.
yes, that's what we just experienced, actually. It was literally a warning sign for the public to say that, okay, we don't own these tools. Neither does the company own their own tools, because the government has the ability to pull it. So I encourage people to build on many land, but I encourage people to master one AI tool.
Yeah.
So that's why I only use Claude, because
Yeah.
I want to master it one. And this is cutting edge technology.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and I think it's such a good point of that focus, like the importance of having that focus and like learning one and going deep there and then moving to the next. But I also think, to your point of you have to build on like multiple pieces of land, it's also the value of that framework of like context and constraints. Because it's like, once you have that context and that voice dump and like the mixture of like the resume plus the voice dump with like all the context on you, you could easily just take that over to ChatGPT and then you're using that.
Yeah. And there's actually prompts that you can give it to be able to extract all the information and then bring it to another tool. And that's something that I actually do on a monthly basis. So it's something that you can actually schedule to take place, which is a system that you can own, where every last Sunday of the month, the AI extracts every new piece of information that's gone into the tool. So you take that document as an MD file,
Yeah.
and then you bring it over to the other tools. And those are all things that I've been able to just do on autopilot. It's very important because it goes back to my first point, is that I like to move in urgency. And I never like to be halted over an issue with a tool being taken away from me. While everybody was panicking about Claude, Fable 5 being taken away, I already had my systems already pre-built out in other AI tools. So that's the importance, is I move as a fox. A fox is very cunning, and a fox has strategy. And that's the biggest word in my books, is strategy, because once you have what you're doing mapped out, the rest becomes history. Actually, the rest becomes ownership, moving with insightfulness, moving and saying, well, everybody's talking about these 5 tools, doesn't matter to me because I'm mastering this one, and I'll be really good at this one. You ever see, I forgot the movie where there's a guy, I think it's Coming to America, where the guy has a jacket on the side of the street and he opens up the jacket and he says, what do you want? What do you want? And he has he's selling watches, he's selling all these things.
Yeah.
That mindset doesn't work in 2026. What works in 2026 is becoming a mastery of one.
Yeah.
And that's how you make your first 100K, your first 1 million, is when you start doubling down and focusing on one person. Anytime I'm dealing with somebody and they're like, oh, Adrienne, I have a new offer. Well, what happened to the first offer?
Yeah.
So I only focus on one thing. And I talk about this individual. There was a student in my institute right now. He just signed a $500,000 contract. And the reason why he did that was because he focused on just one thing.
Yeah.
So we have the prompt actually good to go.
Yeah.
So I entered it in with the resume.
Yeah.
And we are using Claude Cowork, because Cowork is actually really, really, like I said, great cutting edge technology. Did you want me to?
Yeah. I do want you to share it. Just one thing on what you mentioned with because it reminded me of something that Alex Hormozy says, which he says you can get to your first million with one avatar, one offer, and then one marketing channel. And so it's like the same thing that you mentioned. It's like just one thing. You need one customer avatar, you need one offer, and then one way to reach those customers, which is like the channel.
Absolutely. And that's it. And that's actually goes back to my framework, because people, they'll do something and then 5-6 months are still not making any money. Well, if you look at the framework I gave, we actually test and stress test the market before we even go to the market with an offer.
Yeah.
And that's why you get to a point where you start making money really quick within 4 weeks based off my framework, because you're testing it. Once you've tested it with individuals, you're taking their feedback. And instead of you guessing, you're now extracting what they just gave you the blueprint to being able to be successful.
Yeah.
So people will spend their whole lives trying to figure out what to do, but mine is the opposite. Instead of trying to come up with all this, I say hocus pocus, you just go right to the ICP, which is the client, and you say, what's happening in the business? What is you struggling with? What is, if somebody can come in and do something right now, what would it be? And they take that and they now create one offer, and it's so irresistible they can't say no.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at your I'm looking at the output that Claude's given, and it says basically it's taken the resume and it says there's 6 sellable skills. And so if someone, because we'll even share the prompt with people, if they take this prompt with their resume, they get an output, and we'll use Simone as the example. As you're reviewing this output, what is it that you're looking at? What is it that you're paying attention to? Kind of walk us through the behind the scenes of how you would take this output and then get towards the genius and the ICP and then the offer from there.
Very first thing I'm looking at is I skip throughout the fluff because, like I said, AI has a lot of fluffy stuff happening here. I want to see what the skills are. So when I'm analyzing this with anybody that I'm working with, I'm looking at the skills that's popping out here for me. Is it says process redesign that produces a number. This one's a big one. Cut vendor onboarding by 40% and cutting processing errors by 30%. Because of my background in business, I understand that business owners, they want to see, it's not about productivity for them. It's about how much money is it going to save the business, or how much money is it going to make the business. That is like, so when that's actually a gem for those that are watching, is when you're going into those conversations with business owners, they don't want to hear productivity anymore. They want to know, what is that like dollar sign? What does the percentage look like? So when I'm analyzing this, I'm actually skipping over, like it says the institutional knowledge and my signals. So when I'm looking through this, it says that's number 1, adoption engineering, train 200 plus people to 92% adoption. Training is cheap. Adoption is expensive. So that sticks out to me. And then the vendor and spend management. So I'm literally going through and I'm looking at yours. And then in the prompt itself, it does extensive research on what outside consultants are actually billing for their time. So if we look at it, I'm just scrolling down now, it's taking the skill as a service, because now we need to create an offer real quick. So it's creating that skill now. These are the skills that you can literally leverage as a service. And it's giving us, look at that market rate today, which is $3,000, $9,000. I'm always thinking, what's the lowest hanging fruit here to make the most amount of money? So at the end, it says a conservative $200 an hour. The work in her current role bills out around $30,000 a month. If we actually think about, look at this, her salary is the discount.
Yeah.
So that's why I said earlier, I said most of the times people don't realize in corporate, they're renting their skills to companies that are making billions of dollars off of their skill sets.
Yeah. And you're getting paid a fraction.
A fraction.
Yeah.
So now this is what ownership looks like. We're taking back what we are renting and we're now owning our skills, which is so important. And as I go through this, when the audience goes through this, they're going to have an illumination. This is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because we're no longer thinking like, oh, I'm grateful for what corporate's giving me, or I'm making a lot. That's what always comes out. Oh, I'm making a lot of money. Well, what's a lot of money? 100K. But when I show them this math, the math is here.
Yeah.
So it says the number 1 to sell in the next 30 days, because you can't sell. Remember, we can't sell all these as services.
Yeah.
So we sell one, and look at it. It says, based off of the market research, it says onboarding and intake process redesign, sold as a fixed scope project.
Yeah. You know what, quickly, before we get into that, because I want you to give this context, people, because I think it's going to be valuable. Which is, first of all, even in those first 2 sections of the response, the way that you're filtering it is, and in the skills part, is which of these skills will either make business owners, will it either make the money or save the money?
Yes.
So that's like your first kind of like filtering criteria point. And then the second part, if you scroll down to the top 5, because there was a question I wanted to ask you here,
Absolutely.
because this is what, and transparently, this is probably the mistake that I would make if I was looking at this for the first time, right? And I'm thinking about back to what we were talking about earlier with like the speed and the speed to making money, and like the even what you said about low hanging fruits, but it's also it can make money. Yes. And so I think a lot of people are going to look at this and they're just going to look at the numbers and see which one is just billing the most, not even really taking into account, I guess, something that they can reliably deliver, or they would even like enjoy delivering if you're going to be doing it for a lot of time, which is, as business owners, that's what we do. We like tend to work quite a lot, especially in the beginning. I'm curious for you to kind of almost elaborate on the mistakes that you could see people making with interpreting this information, and specifically just looking at what's the highest number and then going after that.
Actually, that's a top mistake that people will make, right? It's and actually I'm going to correct this too, because they will go after passion. But this is not a passion project. So I always say go after what is going to be the most helpful to a business. I have this analogy and this philosophy is you got to think of a business like getting a cut. When you get a cut on your skin, what is your instant reaction?
It's like stop the bleeding.
You want to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
So when we look at these top skill sets, I want to see which one is actually causing the most bleeding in a business. Because when you go in with this offer to a business, it's going to be so undeniable for them to say, no, they don't need help. That's why I say it's not about passion, because it's about solving something in a business that's bleeding and they need urgent care immediately. Because if you get a cut, your immediate reaction is like panicking, but then you're trying to figure out where's a Band-Aid or where's something that can solve it. That's the same philosophy here and the same mindset. When I'm going through these ones, I to be honest, to be fair, I'd actually dig a little bit deeper with Claude too. I would push back a bit, right? I would say, because I actually never accept this first answer from Claude. But for this demonstration, this will actually be very good for your audience, is that they could push back to say, well, where did you, because these tools hallucinate a little bit as well.
They can make up information.
Exactly. So I always want to say, so where's the resource? And then I'll say, do extensive research to tell me where the business is bleeding right now, which would have the most impact. And based off of this prompt, like I said, it was able to actually extract the top one to focus on. But my Claude is set up in a very different way, where even down to my instructions to it is that we focus on revenue and profit. Because that's how businesses run. Money coming in, money coming out, cash flow.
Yeah.
So when you go to a business and they have this bleeding issue, and you come up and you show up and say, all you got to do is pay me $30K and we can actually cut onboarding by 40%. These are all things that businesses like to hear. So I will make that super clear, is that yes, you're working long hours, but you got to put yourself to the side for a little bit and focus on what could actually support the business right now and the season that they're in. Because your first sale is a win it's a massive win, because it doesn't just put money in your pocket. It actually gives you a case study and a testimony that no 1 year, if you're trying to figure things out, could ever replace. This is why it's so quick and so urgent, because you're literally going to a business and saying, I can put 40% back into your pocket just by having me as a consultant. So that's the number one mistake that individuals make is they forget about also their taste. AI doesn't have our taste, meaning our life lived experiences. So for Simone here, she's gone through this rodeo for like 20, 30 years. So she can actually sit here, and that's what sometimes people forget. They leverage these tools so much that they forget about their own critical thinking.
Yeah.
I don't ever get AI to replace my thinking. I get it to support my understanding. So I ask more questions that I actually, like even right now, it's giving us all this information. I will ask more questions before we actually get to the end.
Yeah.
So that's another big mistake too.
It's helping you get clarity.
Yes.
And you know what? It's and I want, because you made this point even when we spoke off camera, and I think it's so important for people, is understanding your framework and then how you're using AI within it. It makes it clear why urgency is so important. And even in all of the language that you're using, it's like you're trying to find like the bleeding problem, like what's the urgent problem in a business. And then it even relates to what you were saying earlier about a key part of your process away from AI and away from any technology is conversations with real people, like the ICP or whoever you come up with as the target business or client, actually having conversations, because then that gives you the clarity of like, okay, what's the bleeding problem? Like, what's the big problem that they're facing right now? And then you can move with a certain level of speed to fill that. And so it's actually the 30 days it's not just like a nice number. It's actually important in how you think about it. It's like, it should be happening fast if you're doing this right, because you're focusing on a problem which is like a bleeding problem right now. It's urgent. And then if you can fill it, then you should actually get work pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Right. And I like to move in urgency too, because also, like, if you think about it, Simone, like I said, if we go back to the mindset of Simone, she may have just got laid off, or she may be working for a company where she knows that she has that burning desire where she can do more. When you get your first win within 30 days, the confidence that it does for you, because you can go like a whole year without making money, but if you lock in real quick and you get your first sale, it creates something called momentum.
Yeah.
So you're like, wow, I got the first one. Let's go get the second one. Let's go get the third one. And once you have that all strapped in, I call it an accelerator. You're accelerating, and now you're able to have 4, 5, 6, 10,000, 100 clients. And what that does is better than AI. It gives you data. So you take all that data now and you put it back into AI to create a system where now you're removing yourself from being the engine. But a lot of people will want to start with, oh, how do I automate this? How do I do that? No, that's another mistake, because naturally people are like, yeah, I need to automate this, but I don't actually push with automation. I push with, like you said, relationships, conversations, building the business brick by brick, not just dumping automation just so you can say that I went to bed and it's working for me, but you're making no money. So we solve urgent things in businesses, because which CEO or owner is going to say no to something that's actively bleeding in the business?
Yeah.
Right. And then, like I said, it's a win for everybody. It's a win for the business owner. It's a win for you, because that is also ownership. It shows you that, wow, I gave all these years to a company, which is actually fantastic, because you're building your skill set year over year. And now you can have the ability to control the output based off of your input.
Yeah.
So it's moving with speed.
Yeah. I remember someone said it to me. They said, the company's paying you to learn. Like, that's how you have to see it, right? Like, they're paying you to learn skills. And then it's up to you how you then go and deploy those skills.
Yeah. And just like a side note, this is actually a huge gem. So every company has something called a learning and development budget, where they give either $5,000 to $10,000 to the employee to go learn something or level up or upskill their skill set. When I was working at these companies, like I said, I don't know if anybody caught that in the beginning. They were actually my first investors, but they didn't even know it. So I used to take those fundings and I used to go, and every year I had this motto where I wasn't finishing the year without a new certification or a new skill set that I'm learning. So it was like a mastermind in itself, because now that I'm out of corporate and I'm working for myself, all these certifications that I have, all of these skill sets that I've learned along the way, they were my first investors. And I've been able to now push it into my own business. And that's why I move with urgency, because I already know the skill sets that I have. I know the certification. I know what makes it successful. And now that's how you can move with urgency.
Yeah. Is there any ones, especially for beginners that are starting out using AI, like specific certifications that you would recommend if I just want to get the most value on my time? And actually, like, even when you were using them or you've seen other people use them, it's like they put the time in, but they got like a big result on the other side. Like the ROI on their time was huge. Which certifications would you recommend?
Perfect. I made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my own money in certifications. So here's actually what I recommend. All of these tools that we're using have free academies on the back end. So Claude has a full academy. OpenAI has a full academy. So I would actually start there, because number one, they're free. It's teaching you how to use their tools and also how to use other tools as well. But that's where I'd actually start. And that's actually where I did start. When they first came out with all the, like, OpenAI has a really intensive academy. Loved it. They have videos, they have text if you're a text learner, if you're an audio learner, it's beautiful. So those are the two that I would start with. And believe it or not, you don't have to put up a lot of money, because now they're offering a lot of these certifications for free. Taking a step forward, because now we're in an innovation way of learning as well. So I would actually go to Claude or ChatGPT, again, run with this prompt the same way you're going through it, and then you're going to say to it, I want to master AI to the point where I'm a beginner now. I know nothing about it. I don't know where to start. And I need you to come up with a custom learning path where you literally give me all the links and sources to the certifications that I need based off of what I'm doing.
That's good.
If I sit here and tell the audience what I did, this is my journey.
Yeah.
They would just be copying and duplicating something for themselves. And that's why people end up saying, man, this didn't even work for me. Because everything is custom now. And that's the ability of having intelligence. We went through 3 eras in life, and I lived through each one. The era of information being scarce, where you would have to go find the information. I don't know if you remember what that looks like, is where you'd have to go to the library,
Yeah.
open a book,
Yeah.
just to find one information, right? Then we have the era of information is all around us now, where Google now put information in front of us. Now we're asking a question, we're getting information. Now we're actually in the era of intelligence, where AI can do both now. Information and intelligence, where it can synthesize the data to create more customized flows for us. So for the audience, instead of doing what I did, I would actually do the opposite, because I actually was duplicating what I thought would, like, I was doing coding, I was doing this, I was doing that. And now that I look back, I'm like, wow. So I would customize it to my journey, building off of where we're at right now, even with this prompt. After you come to the end, you then now say, based off of what I'm doing, it's not just an AI thing too. It's give me the books that I need to read to be able to have conversations in this category.
So it's helping you the whole way through.
It is it's like placing you as a key person of influence. And when I think about that, I forgot his name. I think it's Mr. Presley.
Daniel Presley.
Thank you.
Yeah. Daniel Presley.
I read his book like many years ago, and this is also a huge jump for the audience. I remembered that book, but I took the book and I uploaded it to Claude. And I said, pull out all of the information that I need to become a key person of influence. But taking it a step further, give me the learning path that I need to be able to position myself as an authority figure. I just want to show you my journey. My journey is actually showcasing how powerful this is. I literally went 3 years, like 3.5 years of being unknown online because I just came into social media 3.5 years ago. Nobody knew. In person, I was that woman. I had 20 plus awards. That was in like real life, but nobody knew me online. The prompt that I just gave the audience is the same prompt that I gave to myself. And that's why I can sit here today as a key person of influence, as the voice of AI, because I created a custom learning path for me and a custom way to where I am today.
Here's where I want to go next, because when it comes to the first step is extract your genius.
Yes.
And the AI can assist with that in terms of giving you clarity on what that genius is, but then also harnessing that genius to a further extent through the learning and the custom like learning plan that you mentioned. When I think about step 2 of coming up with your like ideal customer, that really comes through like the conversations, like this human layer. And like learning about them and then taking that information back and really coming up with a clear idea of like, here's the customer, here are their pain points, here are the bleeding problems that they have. Step 3, which is coming up with this temporary offer. Are you using AI in that process to actually kind of take what you've done in those first 2 steps and put it all together into, I guess, what Alex Hormozi would call like the grand slam offer, right?
Yes.
Like the undeniable offer. Or are you, AI is not a part of that process? Like, how are you coming up with that temporary offer?
The temporary offer is coming up by yourself, right? It's leveraging human connection. It's having these conversations, but then it's also creating AI as a co-founder in what you're doing as well. Because if we think about it, sometimes in our mind, it's mushy. We have all these ideas, but it's like, again, coming back to one tool, right? And leveraging it to stress test your ideas to make sure you're going in the right direction. Actually, with the same prompt, it tells you exactly who the buyer is. So then you take that and you run with it. You go out now to the market. See, I'm not sitting in front of a computer still. I'm going out there now and having those conversations to make sure that, okay, yeah, is it correct? Is it correct? Yes, then I'm running in that direction. So AI is supporting you to an extent, but nothing comes down to your own taste, because you have those taste buds to know who is the exact buyer, because you were literally working in that corporate environment for many, many years. So you're not accepting everything AI is giving you, because that would just be like, then there's no critical thinking. You're just like doing what AI tells you. No. You actually are the operator. You're controlling the system step by step. You're owning the system. You're building the infrastructure now. That's what it means. You're owning things along the way, but AI is just a tool.
Yeah. I remember we had Dan Martell on the show, and he said, we're in the age of directors, where it's about like, you're directing the AI. Maybe you have like 1 or 2 employees in your business, but you're directing, and the AI is empowering you to.
Okay, enough of the talk.
Even understanding that like you have a sign.
So enough of the talking. So let's go. Well, what an interesting video. Fortunately we can't continue. Just apply the strategies you start, and I wish you luck. God bless.